Her 13-year-old was attempting suicide at school. Nobody could work out what was going on, but at the same time, her marriage was falling apart. And then years into this nightmare, her child said 5 words that changed everything. I want to live as a boy. There were 0 signs, there were 0 warnings, and of course, everyone had an opinion about what she should do. But Carolyn Tate, today's guest, made a choice that terrified her. She decided that keeping her kid alive was more important than understanding what was happening, more important than certainty. And for anyone that was listening that said that, maybe it's just a phase, she decided that listening to her kid and taking their lead was far more important than certainty. That was all 8 years ago. Today, Connor has just turned 21. He is healthy, thriving, and wickedly intelligent, thrashes people at Scrabble. Carolyn is also a journalist, a content agency founder, and the woman behind the Women's Divorce Academy, helping hundreds of women to navigate impossible choices at a really tough time. And of course, she learned to do that in the hardest possible way, the way we often learn to do things, but she had to choose her child's survival. And I am fortunate enough to call Carolyn one of my very best friends. We have been by each other's side through incredibly difficult times, both of our marriages ending, both of us having issues with our children that has had us emotionally dysregulated, very on edge. So we have been a fantastic support system for each other. So I'm delighted to be able to introduce Carolyn to Big Stuff today. This is a story about what happens when trusting someone matters more than understanding them, and how the worst chapter in your life can become the greatest qualification for you to help others. Let's get to the podcast. Hi, I'm Danielle, and I'm so glad that you're here because together we're going to work through big stuff. Hello, and welcome to my big green couch.
Thank you. I love your big green couch.
It's very nice to have you here. We are piggybacking this onto a trip of you being here, which is a very nice treat.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a strange one. There's a lot of...
Yeah. Well, you're here for my mother's living wake.
Yes.
And there's a lot going on.
There is. And here because I love you, and we get to hang out as well, which is lovely.
Indeed.
And why would you just hang out and relax when you can also record a podcast? We hate to waste time. Yeah.
Moving right along. So, I mentioned in the intro that you had, I was going to say a perfect storm, but it wasn't a perfect storm. It was like a shit storm that went down in your life a number of years ago now. So it's, we can look back with the benefit, I suppose, of hindsight and a little bit of time to be able to see all the gifts and the lessons and all the, how life happens for you rather than,
I'm so grateful for the lessons.
But why don't you tell us a little bit about, what was going on for you and how you experienced it?
Yeah. So let's see. What are we? 10 years ago, I think, around about it was that the shit started hitting the fan, I think. And what happened first? I think first I separated from my husband. And very soon after, my then 12-year-old child tried to kill himself for the first time. And then went on to spend about 2 or 3 years trying to do that multiple times. And I also had 2 younger kids that I was raising as well. What else? We were becoming friends. That was good.
Silver lining.
But yes, so there was a lot going on. I was trying to keep a very disturbed and confused child alive. He he didn't always want to die, but he would just have these moments of spontaneity where he really wanted to die. And that was almost scarier because you never knew when it was going to happen. And so I couldn't hold down a full-time job because I was like on call to school or taking him to appointments or, you know, all that sort of stuff. And so I was getting divorced, no financial support from my ex-husband. And yeah, so everything was just everywhere. And it was white knuckle city.
Did you assume because there was so much unrest in your life and within your relationship that the two were somehow like related, that what was going on with your child was a reflection of, you know, your relationship or what was happening in the home or...
No, I think my son, who was the child in question we're talking about, my ex-husband was his stepfather, and they did not have a good relationship, and being away from him was better for my child. So he was happy about that.
So you'd separated, you were living in different houses, like that had all happened?
Living in different houses, that had all happened, yeah. The downward slide for my son had happened before that. He was he was always like super smart, super good at school, like just your perfect, you know, like precocious, outspoken, kind of bright, bubbly kid. Yeah, very happy. And things had started to go as they do for a lot of kids, like grade 5, you know, it's that sort of things start to happen. And
it's a tough time.
And I was watching that and just keeping an eye on it. And then it really just suddenly went, technical term.
Yes, in the psychology world. So how was that experience for you? You're in the pressure cooker of finding your feet after, I mean, a separation is messy. It doesn't matter how right it is or, you know, how ready you are. That's a circus, right? That's a shit show already.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it was right, but it was really acrimonious. So it was very stressful. Yeah.
So how did you find the space to worry about all of the things?
Where mum's right, we make space to worry about all the things. I think my child staying alive was the number one thing. Like there was nothing else that was more important than that. So everything lined up after that. I had little kids. So my son was 11 or 12. My other kids were 6 and 4. So, you know, one kid wasn't even in school yet. There was a lot of still like bum wiping and hand holding and sandwich cutting and all that sort of stuff. And so I think a focus on that everyday stuff was probably very helpful. I was practically useful. I didn't have a lot of time to sit around and go, oh, what does this mean? It was all just like, what do I have to do today to get through the day? How do I make enough money to make rent this week? I was working 2 days a week, I think, and then separated. And I was just like immediately cut off financially. And then was like, shit, I need like $650 next week. Otherwise I don't have a home. So, you know, it was that kind of immediate. But the first thing was keeping my child alive. Second thing was paying rent. Third thing was, you know, making sure everyone else was happy. And then the fourth thing was, hey, how am I going? No, it's probably the 12th thing, actually.
Totally. When you had talked to your child, like, did they know what was going? Like, did they know why they felt the way that they felt? Like,
oh no.
So, couldn't understand why there was this deep sort of depression or this desire to harm themselves or not be there. So what did you think was going on at the time?
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember. It was around the same time that puberty hit. And so I knew there was a lot of hormones going on, you know, everything was happening. And it was just this sudden switch of like this different kid. And
were they different with you as well? Like suddenly like an angry kid? I know like what I'm experiencing in my home right now with all of the testosterone and all of the different hormones. Is sometimes the difference in my kid is they're a bit of an alien. Sometimes they're a bit grunty. They don't talk to me anymore. Sometimes they're really angry and they can't say why. Was it that kind of different or that more withdrawn? Or
yeah, it was more withdrawn. My kid, this particular kid, has always been a smoochy kid. Yeah. We've always been very close. We still are. And I think it was more going into himself, being secretive, was up to some dodgy stuff online, got into a bit of concerning stuff like chatting to like older people online and all that kind of thing, which was worrying. and getting in trouble at school, which had never happened before. Like kicked somebody and, a few other things, and like lied about some stuff that was stupid. And it was just little things like that. And, it was at first it was like a little just downward slide, and I was just keeping my eye on it. And then really suddenly, to me, I was out one night at a fashion event, having a lovely time sipping champagne, and I'd left my child at home by himself, and I was out for like 3 hours or something, and I got this text message from one of his friends' mums saying, "You need to go home. He's left this really disturbing sent this disturbing message, handful of pills, saying bye everybody," and that was just this absolute bam. This is the start of the next chapter that we're going to live now for the next 3-4 years or something.
Mm-hmm. Tell us what goes through your mind as a mum when because there is a time where you have like almost complete control over your child.
Yeah.
What they do, you can put the Band-Aid on, you can hug and soothe and all of that. But when there is something so deep and personal and that a Band-Aid is not going to fix, what goes through your mind as a mum when you're living that?
I think it's a really interesting shift from, when our kids are little, we know everything about their lives. I mean, for better or worse, we know everything. But suddenly there was all this stuff I didn't know, and there was this sort of other life that is not a secret life necessarily, but just all these feelings, all these experiences,
internal
interactions with people I don't know about, all of these different things. And so it's just this incredible feeling of powerlessness and confusion of like, I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to fix it. And so I think my response was to play like emotional parenting whack-a-mole, except I just covered all the holes as best I could, like this. And so I was just trying to do all of the things, and, spreading myself as, thin as possible to try to cover all the bases. And probably what came a little bit later was also me becoming this like Xena warrior princess mum who just like, if you even look at my kid sideways, I will fucking stab you. Sorry for swearing.
We fully condone, support swear words over here on this stuff.
I became hyper vigilant and just like, I'm looking for problems anywhere. And if you even look like you're going to cause us a problem, I will have you. Yeah. So if you met me during that time, I'm really sorry about that.
I knew you during that time. I just remember how utterly exhausted you were. You were burnt out in so many ways, like energetically, spiritually, physically, whatever. And if we look at the definition of burnout is you can no longer, a decrease in empathy, like you can no longer, like you've cared so much for so long, you can't care anymore.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
And I remember you saying something along the lines one day of like, I can only do what I can do here and it's out of my hands. Because I was like, how can you leave him for a single moment? And all of the sharp things were put away. You'd done so much and safeguarded so much. But then there was an element of I can't control this. And you had to almost not surrender, but in some ways let go of what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah, and that was actually a great gift that his psychologist gave to me because he was obviously in therapy, in regular therapy. And his therapist was amazing. And I had forgotten that. Things like that, like our reality was that if you wanted to use something sharp in my house, you needed the key and you needed to unlock the padlock and get out like the knife to cut a strawberry, right? Like that was, no one had belts. Like everything was put away. Like it was, drugs, everything. It was like not even Panadol. Everything was under lock and key. What a pain in the ass.
Totally. But you learned to bite strawberries. So.
Okay, yeah, strawberries and bait. But I was saying, like I said to her, I was saying to her, because she was lovely and we would go for these appointments for an hour and he would be in there for 45 minutes and then she would give me 10 minutes or 15 minutes at the end to go, how are you going? Which was excellent. And this great gift she gave me was to say one day, if he really wants to go, he's going to go. Like, there's no question he can make that happen if he's really determined. You can, obviously, mitigate risks, but in the end, that's his choice. You need to let me do the professional stuff. You just be mum, tell him to clean his room, give him a hug, tell him you love him, leave the rest to me. And as scary as that was, it was really liberating because it meant that I could let go and go to the shops without him or, just take an hour out for myself, go for a run, which was, my own therapy, and just start to find myself again in amongst all of that chaos and just being on duty every single minute. Because he was with me most of the time. I think he was seeing his dad maybe every second weekend or something like that at that point. And that wasn't going well. So it was on me. I was, I felt the burden and the blessing of being the person. And being on my own, I was the person. That was it. And so it was nice to go, I've got somebody else. And that was his psychologist, Abby. So she gave me this great gift of backup. Mm.
So a number of years into this crisis, and it really was, Connor made an announcement. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, Connor wasn't Connor then, of course, because, up until that period, I had been raising Connor as a girl because that's what I thought he was.
Yeah.
And so first he said, I think I'm non-binary. And I was like, oh, man, we're going to have a lot of conversations with a lot of people about that. And then maybe...
Little did you know.
Oh, no, then maybe a month or two later, he said, no, I think I'm a boy. And I was like, that's easier. But yeah, so that was actually not that far. It was not that far into it, but it took us, it's not a simple process, of course. And at the time I remember thinking, because he was always grasping at something, going, maybe it's this, I think I'm this, I think I'm that, I think I have this disorder or whatever. And so he said, I think I'm a boy. And I was like, okay, maybe you are. Maybe you're just looking for a quick, easy sticker to put on this to, fix it.
Make sense of it.
Yeah. But it turns out he was right. So that began then his gender transition as well. Yeah.
I remember when you said, the announcement, and I also remember the grasping and the, is it this, is it that, do I have this disorder, is it this, disease, is it this whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So when the trans idea sort of came across, it was definitely also a fear of mine that this is a big thing. It's not like you can take medication and then not and come off the medication. It's it was a much bigger thing. It was a whole change in lifestyle or change in identity. And I said that to you, and I remember you saying that's something that we can deal with later. Right now, it's really about how do I support my kid to feel 100% that I am with him because nothing else is really relevant.
Yeah.
And did that take, though, a moment for you to get to, or were you just like, yep, let's just keep on, just forward?
The inner dialogue I had was, yeah, maybe it's not that. But also, who cares? If this is what he feels in the moment, I really love him if he wants to be called by a different name and we use different pronouns. Because a gender transition is not let's do it all next week. This takes a long time. Yeah. And so I was like, it cost us nothing, right? Like, believe him. We go on the journey, and if at some point it's not that, what have we lost? Like, and the most important thing to me was that he felt loved and supported, and like I was on his side, because I mean, I would have been anyway, but knowing that I was his person, and I've always been his person, that was the most important thing, because we all need someone to be on our side, right? And so who cares? If we start using those pronouns and we start using this name, and then it turns out that it's something else, then we'll deal with something else. But what are you going to do?
What about when you got further down through puberty and we started looking at, you and he started looking at puberty blockers and, you know, making more of a permanent change towards how he was feeling internally? What was the support like, I suppose, within your community, but also within the medical community, within the school community? How did that next phase roll out for you guys?
So the first thing was telling people that we loved, we're using his pronouns. I remember saying to my younger kids one day, hey, so I'm going to start using he, him pronouns, and, you know, calling Connor. Connor actually tried a different name first, which we don't use anymore. I'm going to use this name. You guys don't have to do that if you don't want to. And one of them went, but can we? And I went, yeah, sure. And they went, okay. And that was literally the only conversation.
So much to learn from children.
About it. You know, obviously we've talked about it more along the way, but they were just so like, oh, okay, that's what's happening.
Because their sibling, their older sibling, who's like fun and playful and all of that doesn't change.
No, they adored him and they just wanted him to be happy. And they just thought they loved him. They thought he was so fun, and they're all still really close. And then, of course, we started with extended family, some of whom understood much more than others, some of whom were more interested in understanding more than others, some of whom have fallen away from our lives since then.
Because of that?
Well, you know, here's the interesting thing about those situations. No one ever says it's because of that, but people fall away for very trivial reasons that maybe never would have been a reason before, or just don't make the effort that they used to. So that's disappointing. But my job is to love him. And I remember reading something once about, like, if you have to choose between generations, you choose the younger generation, not the older generation. They can take care of themselves, right?
Wow.
This is the generation we take care of. That's my job. Like, they're their own job, right? So
I love that.
Yeah. So I that stuck with me, and I thought, this is who I'm caring for. This is who I'm protecting. I don't need to expose him to situations where people are not supportive or will find reasons to not care for him, because he's extraordinary and I adore him. And
he's so smart. He is an incredibly intelligent and emotionally intelligent as well young man.
One of the benefits of having years of therapy is that he is so emotionally intelligent. Yeah.
When Connor announced or realised that this was what was going on underneath, was it like an immediate switch in the mental health wobbliness or the desire to harm himself, or did that go away?
No, it wasn't an immediate switch, but I will, which brings us back to a question I didn't answer before about starting the puberty blockers. I think every step that we took along the way, and just to give you a brief, may I give you a brief précis of what we?
Please do.
Yeah. So we started on puberty blockers, and this is not medical advice, but the thing about puberty blockers is that you just stop taking them and puberty starts again, right? So.
And hang on, do they hand these out willy-nilly like Smarties when you go to, just for anyone who's wondering?
Yeah, there's people outside 7-Eleven going, hey, trying to indoctrinate you. No, it's a really long process.
Yeah, and it's very rigorous,
and
right?
Something I will say, we're so lucky because this happened before COVID. So since COVID, all the systems supporting mental health are just so under the pump. I don't know what it's like now, but at the time, I think we were going there for probably about 6 to 9 months before puberty blockers started. And so Connor was seeing a counsellor. They counselled me as well. They wanted to talk to his dad. And there's a lot of processes that you have to go through, talking to his GP, lots of blood tests, lots of talking, lots of everything. And also, hormones, everything, like they test everything. Started on the puberty blockers. They keep an eye on that. I think probably for about a year he was doing that. And then he turned 16 and he was allowed to start on testosterone. And that too was a long process. Both parents have to agree, and we came very close to going to court on that one, but got a last minute approval. And every step we took was a bit better. He was a bit happier. And I'm very much, not so much the suicidal ideation part, but the self-harm, which was also a thing. I love, Gabor Mate says, like self-harm or drug abuse, whatever, is not the problem, it's the solution, right? So the problem is something else, and this is the solution that they're using, and it might not be the best solution, but his counsellor said to me, if he's, he was cutting himself and doing all sorts of things, and she said, that's his outlet. Don't get in the way of it. It's upsetting, but it's okay. And
let's get to the root of the problem. So
exactly.
There's no desire any longer.
Yeah. So I think it's easy to get freaked out by that stuff, but I think I really learned to just sit with it and know that it was happening and know that it was, just a symptom rather than the problem. And that was information for me to go, okay, he's struggling at the moment, or, whatever.
Yeah.
But things started to, nothing was a magic bullet. But the best moment for him was, he had top surgery, so double mastectomy, when he was 17, nearly 18. And
is that young? Is that about the right time? I'm not the right time. But is that about normal?
Normally it's after 18.
Yeah.
With parental, I was going to say supervision, approval. You can do it earlier, and if the doctor recommends it, blah blah blah. So we went through a whole thing about that, and again had to.
Connor was very top heavy as well, so it was a big thing.
He had some massive cans.
Yeah, he had big cans. That was
and he was binding every day, and it was dangerous, right? Yeah,
yeah.
Like he was binding to sleep, everything. Just hated them, and it just affected the way that he felt about himself. And I've never seen somebody so happy. Like he was, we talked about this, like he was high as a kite. He came out of the surgery. He was nauseous. He had a couple of vomits, and he just looked down and felt, and like his face was, I don't know, I wish I could bottle that and just like sniff it every day.
Wow.
Because as a mum, like it just felt like everything that we've been doing for the past 5 years at this point, 5 or 6 years, this is why we did it, for that face.
Mm.
And he's human. He still has ups and downs. He just turned 21 a week or two ago. And, sometimes he's still down. Sometimes he's happy. But like in a really average way, rather than I hate everything about my life and my body and I'm trapped in this horrible situation. Like he's himself, and he's amazing. And he's just going about living his life.
I've got 2 questions, and I hope I don't forget either. One is an incredibly ignorant question about transgender.
Yep.
You said that they do hormone tests.
Mm-hmm.
Are there hormonal differences, or can there be hormonal differences in someone who is trans? So someone who feels like they are in the wrong body, is there actually sometimes a hormonal difference as well, or is it they're biologically no different? It's a internal feeling. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
And I know it's an ignorant question, but I'm curious.
I don't think there's any such thing as an ignorant question.
Okay,
I think
great.
like if you have a question, that's lovely to ask.
I know, but I just also want to really honour and not say, because I think it can be very easy to say offensive things, but I guess if you don't know, you don't know, and we can learn to do it better.
And I think, having talked to Connor about this a lot, I think if a question is coming from a genuine place of interest, curiosity, wanting to learn, I think he really appreciates that. It's, it's the questions that come with judgment or whatever that he's like, go fuck yourself. But, which he's very good at. But
he learned from the best.
thank you very much. Not that I know of. You know, I'm certainly no expert, but not that I know of. I think it's very much an internal thing, and I think the research is ongoing. And you know, certainly there are some studies coming out that suggest maybe there's like a higher representation among neurodiverse people, and all sorts of other things, but not a hormonal thing that I know of. But I could be wrong.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. I read something this morning actually about when you have multiple bad things happen at the same time. I mean, we'll say bad, but you know, multiple like big, all the big stuff.
Events,
when you have lots
yes.
of, sometimes you are unable to process potentially the first one or the slightly less bad one because it's just this avalanche. Do you feel that any of your divorce or that part of your life didn't get enough, I don't want to say airtime because I'm sure it got plenty, but you know what I mean? Like, do you feel like you were able to process enough of your own stuff during the dissolution of your marriage and the dreams and the hopes and the whatever of your family because all of your attention was dragged somewhere else?
That's a good question. I don't know. I do know that I think it took, I don't know what the requisite amount of time it is for you to get your claws out of the curtains when you go through something like that. But I think that the PTSD of that went on for a long time, probably continues sometimes. You know, I can be really triggered by certain things where I just suddenly go really quickly, which I'm working on. But did I? That's a great question. I'm not sure. To be perfectly frank, I was so happy to get divorced. I knew it was a good move. Obviously, the business of getting divorced and the process of your life changing in that way is a lot. And, you know, you and I were friends at that time and we were both going through some tough stuff with our divorces, and we would ring each other every week and go, "How are you going?" Good.
You okay? No. Serious? No. Cool.
We were both really hanging on there. And I think it was probably more taking care of my kids and the financial stress because I couldn't work like I would have liked to. So I was like, because being available for my kids is my big not negotiable. Like, I grew up in a single parent household where my mother was at work all the time, and she didn't have a job where she could just leave. So if we were in trouble, it was just like, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And I never wanted my kids to, and you know, she was doing the best she could. There's no judgment there, but I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was there. And some in my life would say that I have done that too much.
Somebody suggested that to me the other day as well. I didn't believe they may have said I'm still wiping their asses at 15. And I was like, just because I'm making school lunches, how dare you?
And cutting them into butterflies.
Dinosaurs.
I was so available. I just wanted to be there for everything. If they needed me, I was there. And so that really got in the way of me trying to earn a living. I mean, I was working as a journalist at the time, and I took whatever gigs I could get. And so I got into the craziest part was when I started doing the 4 a.m. morning news shift.
That was nuts.
So I'd work 4 a.m. till 8 a.m. The kids learnt to get themselves ready for school because mummy was working. And so they make their own lunches. Yeah.
I've always
the one thing.
I've always been so envious of seeing your children's morning routine.
Oh, their lunches are so boring. They're still boring, but I'm like, whatever, okay. Vegemite again, sure. So, I'd work the 4 till 8. I'd take them to school, and then I'd come home and work like a full day, doing freelance or whatever. Unless like I got a call from the school saying you need to come, like, we've called an ambulance, or we've like called the police, or we've, like there was a lot of stuff going on at school. And he was really struggling and, got suspended and all sorts of things. To be fair though, he did kick somebody that was bullying him, and I was kind of like, go you. We don't condone violence, but still. We don't condone bullying either.
Right.
So, it was balancing that sort of availability with that very real white knuckle, I don't know if I've got enough money this week kind of situation.
So after Connor's top surgery, you really felt like you turned a corner with him. And you were still writing, you were still journalizing. Don't think that's a word, but it should be. Talk to us about how you turned your divorce, and in fact, I would say any messy breakup and extrication of yourself from relationships.
Yeah.
How have you turned that into something that is positive for other people?
Well, I hope it's positive for other people.
It is. I can 100% on that.
I really think that moment where you step away from something like that was sort of, part of your identity and part of, what you thought was going to be your entire future is such an opportunity to take a good long look at yourself and your life and go, is this really what I wanted? But so I was, in amongst all of this, because I hate to sit idle, I was already running some online communities and stuff. And I thought, hey, nobody knows how to get divorced, right? And all of my friends were married at the time.
Not all of them.
No, but you were so far away.
That's true.
We don't know how to get divorced, and it's so secretive. And as we've covered, I was really struggling at the time. I couldn't afford legal advice. I couldn't afford anything, and so I worked my way through that. Really, as great thing about being a journalist is if you don't know something, you pitch an article about it, then you get to talk to experts for free.
Absolutely.
Rort.
No, it's fucking genius. It's
right?
Yeah.
It was
resourceful, baby. Resourceful.
Yeah, small aside, but it was also helpful with Connor because anytime somebody upset Connor, I'd be like, I'm writing an article about that. Do you want me,
endless content.
I threatened his school several times with, I'm going to write an article about this. That was when I got so I started an online community for women going through divorce called Women's Divorce Academy, where I'm no expert. So I brought in experts, in all sorts of things like legal, psychology, property, finance, all of the practical stuff, but then also all of the soft stuff of once you get through the business part, which is difficult and
it really
spreadsheets
is.
with teaspoons on them, man. When people get really detailed, I had a friend that had a spreadsheet that literally had every piece of cutlery they owned together. But once you get through all of that, then you're like, what is this life that I'm about to start? It's so overwhelming. You've got this blank canvas. What do I actually want for myself? I haven't thought about myself as myself for 10, 20, 30, whatever years. How do I start that? And so, I don't know. In amongst all of this, I like to think of myself as an optimist. And I was like, this is such an opportunity, right? This is a clean slate where I can go, I can do anything I want. So I'm living the dream now. And it doesn't happen unless you make it happen, right? So otherwise life just happens to you.
Do you find in your community, though, when people are in that, not even necessarily the initial phase, let's say they're in the phase just after, I always say the 12 months leading up to the breakup is the worst. That's the hardest, right?
Man.
Should I go? Should I stay?
That's
Can
if you
we
make
work
the
it out?
choice, though.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes the rug just gets pulled out.
Yes, but even then that's bad because the relationship isn't good.
Yeah.
Even if you're not planning on ending it, it's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the next 12 months, I see that as very difficult because there's the physical separation, but it is much more hopeful because there's the rebuilding. But do you find within your community that even when people are in that sort of next bit, the rebuilding, there is still so much grief and loss and fear? I felt a lot of fear, financial fear especially.
Yeah.
And would I be on my own forever? Do you find people struggle to find that sense of optimism and possibility? And
Yeah, of course. And it's not, I like to say that, we help women turn their divorce into the best thing that ever happened to them.
Divorce, yay!
I don't expect that to happen on day 2.
Okay.
But I just like to plant that as like keep that in the back of your mind. That is something that's there for you when you're ready.
Yeah.
For now, you need to take care of yourself. You need to like do all the things. You need to get through the business. You need to make sure you surround yourself with a really solid support network, and just take one day at a time, find the positives. And I think the reason it's interesting because before I started talking about things in this messaging, I think earlier on we talked about it in a much more kind of not sympathetic way of like, it's really hard, we're here to help you, which we are. But what happened was people would join who wanted to just talk about how shit everything was. And things can be shit, that's cool, but there's also other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think if you're ready to experience the shit, say it's shit, but also I want something else, that's great. If you want to sit in the shit and just be sad and talk about how like you hate your ex, maybe we're not quite what you're after just yet.
Well, it's also that space, it keeps you in such a trauma loop. It keeps you in such a drama loop. And you can, like, people keep that going for years. You know, I've heard of couples that are so acrimonious 10, 15 years later. For why? How exhausting? Who's got the energy for that?
I mean, my ex-husband, but some hold on to it for a long time.
Yeah.
And co-parenting is a challenge. And I think that's why at first it was sort of focused around getting women through that business. And now it's actually about much more than that, because I've realized that actually it goes on and on and on.
It really does.
But I think it's just, whether it's divorce or whether it's other things that happen in your life, it's whether you want to sit in that victimhood, which is your choice and that's fine. But knowing that there's something else for you, even if you're not quite ready to grab it yet, just knowing that there's like something great that can happen from this is so important. And that's, I think, what we try to bring to women. And I think it's, again, day 2, we don't go, hey, great opportunity.
Yeah, pull your socks up, let's go. Yeah.
It's just about reframing it as, okay, this is a really hard time, but this is actually setting you up for something else. That future that you thought you were going to have and that future that you thought you wanted so badly wasn't the future for you. Letting go of what we thought our life was going to be like is scary because you haven't got anything to replace it with yet.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But I don't know. I mean, I think you and I both know that the futures that we let go of weren't nearly as fun as the futures the present that we're now living in, and also the futures that we hopefully have to look forward to. And who knows what's going to happen next? We don't know. But we've given ourselves the best chance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A theme keeps recurring on the Big Stuff podcast, and I never get tired of hearing about it or hearing somebody else coming to it of their own volition, which is things happening for you. And it can be, it can be very twee. I suppose it can be a little bit hallmark and not necessarily saying everything happens for the best reason, but things happen for you. And recognizing that just even as a possibility, that yes, this is hard. Yes, this is shit. Yes, this is not what I planned. This is not working out how I thought. And maybe there is something else that I have not yet considered that wouldn't have been available to me had I stayed on that path.
Yeah. And whether you believe that things happen for you or not, things happen.
Yeah.
And then you choose what you do with that thing, right? I mean, you can just sit in it if you want. And we all take a minute to do that. Or a week or a year.
It's an important part of the process, right?
Absolutely. You need to process it. Yeah. But then what are you going to do? And who are you going to blame if you don't do anything with it? I mean,
everyone else.
We know those. You have to take some responsibility. And I think the greatest thing somebody can do when they're going through a divorce is to do some therapy and go, even if that person I broke up with is the worst person in the world, what was my part in this? What did I choose? What did I allow? What did I just let happen? And what do I want learn from this experience and what do I want to change for the future?
Yeah.
There's always something.
Even the worst relationships, the most shit relationships, it's 50-50 where it goes wrong,
Yeah.
right? There is, as you say, there are compromises, there are micro decisions, there are macro decisions. There's a lot of different things that play out
For sure.
to create a dynamic.
Yeah. I know in my marriage, like, my ex-husband and I do not get along at all.
Same.
And that's fine. He's over there now. I'm over here. We kind of co-parent. We parallel parent.
Share this one thing about how to deal with a very difficult ex, because you told me this thing, because I get so triggered. I get so riled up. We with my ex and I, we go through phases. I keep trying. I like to have the happy Christmas. I like to do things together as a family. And because we keep doing that invitation into life, then it opens up the possibility of being triggered or whatever. But you said something to me which was very, very useful. What is that?
I'm hoping I know what you're talking about.
Let's have a go.
Is it the Perspex box?
Yes.
Yes. This is actually a great trick that I learned from our friend Jennifer Franklin, who is a family lawyer and family law mediator. And when she was my lawyer when I was going through my divorce, and she said, when you're divorcing a narcissist, which so many women I speak to are, it's a lot, this person will want to be heard, right? They have an opinion about everything and they are going to talk. And you just imagine them in a Perspex box, put the Perspex box over them, let them keep talking, let them keep using their oxygen. Off they go. It's fine. You don't have to correct them. You don't have to convince them that you're right, because you won't. You don't have to do anything. Let them talk. They're just going to keep talking anyway. They're not going to come around to your way of thinking. Let it go. You need to let it go. I think the bigger picture there is let it go, but the Perspex box helps because it's
Just
funny.
imagine them running out of oxygen.
Yeah, we all enjoy that. But it's helpful. And I do have to say as well about your Christmases and stuff that I so admire your patience and your persistence in trying to create that for your family. It's a really beautiful thing that you do. And you and I have different approaches, and that's cool. I'm very much a tall fences person.
Grey rock.
And yeah, the grey rock technique,
Grey rock
of course.
is good,
Yeah. Which is if you don't know that, that's basically you just act like a grey rock. Basically, your answers are all as boring as possible. Like just answer the question.
Do not engage. Just
No color, no movement.
Yep.
Yep. So if it's a yes or no question, yes or no, that's it. Yeah. Or like what date? That date. That's it. Don't engage with the details, because as soon as they have details, they will like. So yeah, I'm grey rock. I'm high fences. That works for me as well as it can. And I think I really admire that your approach. I think it's a really beautiful thing that you do.
I'm just a big softie.
You are a big softie.
Dead inside.
Totally dead inside. It's a wasteland in there. No, I think it's so funny because I think of myself as a softie because I know myself in the middle, and you know that too.
Totally.
But I am very good at turning on and off. And I think that's a skill I've learned over some years. But I think I will give you everything until you disappoint me, and then I will go, okay, no more.
That's it.
So be warned.
I amputate you. You're dead to me. You are dead to me. So at what stage of a separation or divorce would somebody want to come and join the Divorce Academy? Like, is it if you just like browsing or?
You know what? We do get people that haven't even called time on their marriage yet.
Wow.
Who are like, I just want to see what's out there. What does it look like for other women? Because you know what, because we have lots of materials like, to help women with particular subject matter, like, what does going to court look like? What does mediation look like? What do I need to know? But we also have these communities and these like, virtual, sessions where we have Q&As and all sorts of things. And I think that's the thing that people really value, is just being amongst other women who are going through it. And I think it's almost like dipping your toe in the water of like, what are they all talking about? Are they okay? Yeah. Will I be okay if I do that too? So we do have some people there. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have women in there who have been divorced for years who just still want to talk to women who get it, who are like, we've got someone at the moment who was like talking about how her ex, it's like 3 years in, her ex just got a new partner, and the kids have met the new partner, and the kids think the new partner's cool, and like it's hard, right? To sort of, it's this natural kind of human, am I being replaced? Are they going to like her more than me? All that sort of stuff. And I think just having that community is really important. Like we do have a lot of people who are in the guts of it that first year. That's a really big, part where the support is really important. But I think, so the coaching, like the one-on-one coaching we get like mostly in that first year, but the other bits is like, there for the community.
I think the beautiful thing about a community in any hard scenario is, even though you know logically that millions of people have been through divorce and that you're not alone, it often feels like you are completely alone. Like nobody has been through your unique set of circumstances, and nobody has ever been as sad or been as, it's never been as hard, or just, that feeling of utter aloneness.
Yeah, and I think it's also, if you're at a party or you're at a morning tea in the office or whatever, and people go, how are you going? And you go, I'm going through a divorce. They go, oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to go get some cake, because nobody wants to talk to you, right? Like it's, your married friends, it's like you've got like a pox or something.
Yeah.
So it's, it's like it's catching, or I don't know, but, and your friends can be supportive to a point, but eventually they're like, okay, man, come on. But it's so hard. And unless you've been through it, you don't know how hard it is. Like you can hear it and you can like, the theory, but it's like hard on so many levels that you never even think about. Whether it's like these little trivial things of like going to, I don't know, like a work event and not having a date, or, that you would normally have.
Bins out.
Having to put the bins out. Yeah, exactly. If you've got a big steep driveway. All these little things, like the day that my ex-husband moved out, I got onto YouTube and found out how to replace a toilet seat. And I was like, I've never been more proud of myself in my life. Yeah. And considering I have ADHD and normally do things half-assed, it didn't even fall off the next day. So I was really happy.
You're putting your full ass on the seat.
So I think it's just having other women who know what that's like and who won't go, come on, man, you talked about this last week.
Yeah.
So there's room for that. There's room for that kind of, this sucks, but also, hey, what are your hopes and dreams? What do you want to do?
I know how many holidays you've been on since then.
I know, and that's really important. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful to be able to look back and think there was a time where that seemed so far out of your reach?
Yes.
I know you and I actually also used to say that one day we would sit on a balcony and drink champagne and laugh at the rest of the world down there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And we were so broke and scared and, living on adrenaline and cortisol. Our nervous systems were utterly fried. And that seemed like a really far reach at that time. And we have done similar. We have done, maybe not exactly the balcony.
Every time we get a hotel room together, we're like, oh, I'm not, this isn't the right balcony.
Yeah, we do definitely. We've both got a vision in mind what the balcony is. We haven't done it yet.
We will find the right balcony.
Yes, we will. But we have had times away where we have been able to think of that, drink champagne or tea now because we're old.
And our systems don't like it anymore.
Yeah, go perimenopause.
But yeah, it is. Sorry, just to tie a bow around that. It is just that sort of helping women to kind of go, I know that you can't see this right now, but here's like, let's just take some baby steps. Maybe you don't have to think about all those big things right now, but just what are some little things that you can start dreaming of? Because, hope and optimism are such powerful things. And to see that light at the end of the tunnel and go, it's not always going to be like this. Because it's not always going to be like that, even though it feels like it's always going to be like that. It's really important. Yeah.
I love that. Hope and optimism are such powerful things. It's a beautiful sentiment, and absolutely true, particularly when you're not feeling either of those things.
Yeah. And it can feel cruel almost. And I think that's the feeling that I was having in that hospital, was like, how dare you make me think of these things that don't look realistic to me at all? And as you point out, I have been on some lovely holidays since then. And And I could not see how that was going to happen. But I think it's really important to just leave the how up to the universe for now and just go, that's what I want. And I'm going to keep like just thinking about that for now. We'll work towards it later. The how isn't important. It's just that I know that that can happen.
Yeah. I'm moving towards something more beautiful for my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. How do we find you? Should we want to talk more, learn more, get amongst the Women's Divorce Academy?
You can find us at womensdivorceacademy.com or, we're on Facebook and Instagram at Women's Divorce Academy as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have you got any sort of final words or any words of encouragement for someone who is sitting in that torturous space of, can I work it out? Should I stay? Should I go?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm never going to advise somebody to leave him and join Women's Divorce Academy. No.
We're building a commune.
This is our fantasy, right? We're building a women's commune. That's going to happen one day. But for now, I think, I would never dream of advising someone to stay or go. Everyone has to make up their own minds. But I will say the loneliest time of a woman's life in this situation is before she goes. That, when you're, and I think if the other party isn't trying to help fix this, isn't trying to help find a way forward, then what are you doing? Like you can't save everyone.
One-sided, it's not a one-sided fix.
Yeah, so if you're the only one trying to fix it, I would suggest you look at that. But also, it gets better really quickly. Because when you're in this miserable situation, you can't surround yourself with love and friends because you've got this person there and you can't, that's the loneliest.
It consumes a lot of energy. I also think there is nothing lonelier than being in a relationship or in a partnership and being lonely.
It's the worst.
That is the worst.
Yeah.
I think being alone is so much easier than being lonely within a relationship. I feel like a lot of people
1,000%
find that a very hard concept to get their head around.
Yeah. And I will say on that, when my ex-husband and I decided to split, we lived together for 3 or 4 months after that.
That's fun. I did that too. 4 months, great times.
And if I can advise anyone of anything, it's don't do that. But in that was the loneliest part for me because I was sad and I just wanted to get on with things, but I couldn't have friends around or do anything. And there was one period in there where I got really bad gastro and I was so sick and he couldn't have cared less. And I ended up having to call an ambulance to go to the hospital because he was just and I was in the hospital, 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't even have shoes. And they said, you can go home now. They put me on a drip, whatever. And I called him to say, hey, can you come and pick me up? And he went, can't you get a taxi? And I was like, man, if I lived alone, this would be so much easier.
I actually have a similar story. I had at the top of my butt crack, I had some kind of thing. I couldn't see what it was. Maybe a boil, maybe an ingrown hair. And I was trying to squeeze it. I was trying to look at it. I was trying all of these things. And I couldn't get a good understanding of what was going on back there. So I said to my ex, who was still living in the house, hey, can you please have a look at my bum crack? And he was like, that's not my job anymore. And I was like, really? You can't even help me out? I can't. It's back there. And he was like, nah.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Anyway.
And I think a lot of women think there's still meaning to this relationship. We've raised kids together maybe, or we've
mortgage, we've got so many financial commitments.
We had hopes and dreams. We've shared everything. And now you're just bzz, it's done, right? That and it's a tough thing, I think, for women especially to grasp that's how black and white it can be. Because what did it all mean? Was it all for nothing? It's horrible. But apparently that's the case.
I don't think it's all for nothing.
No, it's not.
No, I know, but I think it's really important on that for anyone listening who's wondering if their entire relationship then meant nothing because it didn't end up the way that you hoped. I think it's really important to understand people grow and change.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really, really important. And if you have grown so far apart that you can't find your way back to each other, as hard as that can feel and as devastating as it might feel and as disruptive to your life as it might feel,
it's actually evidence of something good, which is you've grown.
Yeah.
Or, or maybe they have and you haven't, which is probably a little bit harder to swallow. But, people aren't stagnant.
Yeah.
And it's our attachment to ideas and things and dreams that makes it really hard.
Yeah, and I think that traditional societal norm of like you get married and it's for life, and if you get divorced, it's a failure. And it's like my life's mission to remove this element of shame from being divorced, and I still see it so often that it's like, why can all these other people do it and I couldn't do it? I couldn't make it work. What's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. And I think it's a wonderful thing that society has now where you don't have to make a mistake.
Make your bed and lie in it. Yeah.
You can say this isn't for me and go, thank you very much. We tried our best. Best of luck to you. Nice handshake and off you go. If you're lucky and then you have this like nice cordial kind of relationship, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But there's no shame in it. There's no like wanting more for yourself should never be something that you feel ashamed of. And I think as women, we are taught to keep ourselves small for the comfort of other people. And I think it's really, really important to stand up and go, this isn't serving me. I want more for my life than mediocrity, than an okay relationship or a shitty relationship. I reckon I can do better. I reckon I can be happier. Then go and do it.
Yeah.
Do that for yourself. And if you have kids, you're showing them something wonderful too.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who is in that sort of phase, should know, or the very early stages of all of that sort of grief, with the benefit of 10 years between our marriages that ended in divorce, we now have very, very different looking lives, very, very beautiful new relationships, which also require our attention and work.
Mm-hmm.
But our exes have continued to prove to us why divorce was a great move.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're horrible, hideous, anything. It's that we are so vastly different. And with that benefit of perspective now, it's like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking.
Yes.
Like, I don't know how I thought that we would be able to work through our differences.
Well, I think we have flourished because we've allowed ourselves to go, who am I? What do I want for my life? And we went into these new relationships really aware of what was okay, what was not okay, what we were looking for, what our deal breakers were. And
I think in relationship, you accept what you think you're worthy of.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So if there are like a lot of red flags in a relationship or a lot of compromises being made, one-sided compromises being made, and that's on you, that maybe the work actually really needs to start with you and doing some of the inner work to understand, I guess, some of your patterns and your programming, some of your earlier beliefs around relationships and your own value and your worth.
Thank you. I think I'm just like, it's so hard. These lessons are really hard to learn. Yeah. If I can make it easier for someone else to learn these lessons, I will, because man, they were really hard lessons.
Yeah. I learn from your own mistakes if you can learn from mine, right?
Right. And, maybe like my kids, you'll have to make your own, but we all do. But I think like I have, and especially as a journalist, because I had access to all of these experts that, not everybody does. And so I just feel like it was such a privilege to have all of that. And it's just still like sitting in here, or in my computer. Like, why wouldn't I share all of that with the world? I think it's really important. And especially as a woman, I think we have enough to deal with, right? Like, I really think that women need to make life easier for other women. I'm a big advocate of, just helping each other out where we can. And also, I just like having new friends.
That's the ploy. Build a big community.
Yeah. Come and play with me.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me on the couch. Thank you for having a chat about all of the big stuff. I love you to pieces.
I love you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. See you next time.
I feel is crazy powerful about Carolyn's story. It's not that she had all the answers or she understood everything that was going on. She was completely in control of the situation. It was that in spite of all of the confusion, she made a choice. being certain wasn't important, knowing the answers wasn't important, just keeping Connor alive, whatever it took, that was the only thing that mattered. That one decision, like made in the middle of the chaos, really saved everything. Think about all of the times that we wait to be certain or wait to have all of the answers to understand before we act. We want to know that we're doing the right thing. We want guarantees, right? We want someone to tell us it's going to be okay. But sometimes, especially when someone we love is drowning, we don't get that luxury. We just have to choose them, choose their survival, choose to trust them, even when we don't understand. Carolyn chose Connor, and today he's a thriving and amazing young man. If you want to connect with Carolyn and learn more about the Women's Divorce Academy, you will find all of her details in the show notes. I can guarantee you that the program has been created with love and care and is really making a difference, helping women to navigate a very, very tricky time of life. But before you go, I want to leave you with two questions, two things to sit with and ponder. First, what would change in your life if you chose someone's well-being over your need to understand it? Not blind faith, but informed trust that says, I don't have all the answers. I don't truly understand what you're experiencing, but I've got you. Where are you waiting for certainty before you show up for someone else's needs right now? And the second thing is, think about the hardest chapters of your life, like the ones that you wouldn't wish on anyone. What if that chapter wasn't just something that you survived, but something that qualified you to help others? What if your mess became your message? See what I did there? You like that? You like that? But Carolyn turned her divorce, her messy separation into the Women's Divorce Academy. And I believe that so many of us have this wisdom from the experiences, the lived experiences, the hard times, the challenges. I believe so many of us have so much wisdom to share simply because we got through it. You only need to be one step or two steps ahead of somebody else's journey to be able to share with them. So where could you be helping somebody else through your own experience? If you'd like to send me through your answers, I would always love to hear them. You can catch me at bigstuffpod@gmail.com. And until we see each other again, be kind to each other, be kind to yourself. See you soon. I hope that you enjoyed listening to this episode of Big Stuff as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. Now, if you did enjoy this episode, it would really help me if you wanted to share it with just one person that you think is going to get something out of it. And also feel free to drop a comment. All of these things really help podcasts to gain more ears, and that's what we're really here for. Also, be sure to subscribe, then you will never miss an episode. If you want to find out more about me, who I am, what I do, then you can go and check me out at daniellecolley.com.au. I'll see you next episode for more big stuff.